And good evening once again. Day 1244 of this Trump administration. 140 days to go now until our presidential election. After nearly 4 weeks of protests in streets across the country demanding police reforms following the killing of George Floyd, the president today signed an executive order to encourage changes in policing. Importantly, the order appears to be more suggestions, guidelines than mandates for immediate action or accountability. Trump unveiled his order in a Rose Garden ceremony flanked by law enforcement and clearly messaging that they have his support.
I strongly oppose the radical and dangerous efforts to defend, dismantle, and dissolve our police departments. Americans want law and order. They demand law and order. They may not say it. They may not be talking about it, but that's what they want. Some of them don't even know that's what they want, but that's what they want. What's needed now is not more stoking of fear and division. We need to bring law enforcement and communities closer together, not to drive them apart. Nobody is more opposed to the small number of bad police officers, and you have them. They're very tiny. I use the word tiny. It's a very small percentage, but you have them.
The order he signed today sets up a database to track misconduct. It promotes wider use of mental health resources among forces and provides funding as an incentive to raise the standards for use of force. It also addresses one of the more controversial issues, and that's police use of chokeholds.
As part of this new credentialing process, chokeholds will be banned, except if an officer's life is at risk.
That caveat there, if an officer's life is at risk, is key because oftentimes it's the word of the officer, and because the order stops short of any kind of outright ban on chokeholds, which many say needs to be part of any effective reform measures. The order also does not address the question of systemic racism. Before today's signing event, Trump met privately with the families of African Americans who've died during interactions with law enforcement. The lawyer for some of the families was also at that meeting and later said today's executive order isn't nearly enough.
The executive order takes incremental steps, and we need radical change. It was a very heavy meeting. I let the families lead the way and tell their stories. There certainly were tears flowing in the room. But we're hoping that beyond the emotion of it, that it will lead to significant policy change.
As they work on what are now competing police reform bills in the House and Senate, Republicans and Democrats seem to be on a total collision course. Senate Majority Leader McConnell plans to introduce his party's legislation tomorrow morning. Today, he straight up dismissed the Democratic effort.
That's a non-starter. The House version is going nowhere in the Senate. It's basically typical Democratic overreach to try to control everything in Washington. We have no interest in that.
And that's how that worked. Earlier on this network, Speaker Nancy Pelosi fired back.
For the leader of the Senate to say it's going nowhere, we don't want any of that, is really disgraceful. What the president had today was a photo op. It's about making a big difference, taking a giant step forward, and saying to the leader in the Senate, you call yourself the Grim Reaper. How aptly named you are when you see how many people have died.
Of course, all of this is still happening as the nation continues to battle a pandemic. As you saw, the president was in the Rose Garden today wearing no mask, very little social distancing, not a mask there in that scene. We also saw the vice president, the nominal head of the coronavirus task force. He was circulating with no mask among customers without masks inside a diner in Iowa today. The unmistakable message we are left with from the top of our government: no mask, no problem. Which brings us to Trump's upcoming campaign rally Saturday night, Tulsa, Oklahoma. It will be, in effect, the largest indoor event since the arrival of the pandemic, let's not forget, in a city undergoing a spike in cases, in a state that has not flattened the curve, even though the VP insisted it had. New York Times reports several local officials are concerned about setting the stage for what's called a super spreader event. They're pleading with Trump to cancel the rally or hold it outdoors. Forbes says one lawsuit filed earlier today to try to stop the event cold has been denied. Oklahoma's Governor Kevin Stitt is meeting with Trump at the White House later this week. And the Oklahoma Department of Health is advising anybody who plans to attend the rally to be tested before and after the event. Today, Trump made no mention of the rally, but offered this assessment of the fight against the virus.
Before the end of the year, I predict we will have a very successful vaccine, therapeutic, and cure. These are the people, the best, the smartest, the most brilliant anywhere. And they've come up with the AIDS vaccine. I think we're going to have a very, very good answer to that very, very soon. I always say, even without it, it goes away.
Just one minor fact check here at the end. There is no AIDS vaccine.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.